leader. You said you can count on his leadership. If you're like an NBA GM, you taking Cade Cunningham or Jalen Suggs, number 1 overall?
Not even close. Suggs.
Jalen Suggs?
Wow.
Not even close. Yeah.
Wow.
The like I was talking about before, the winning thing.
What it do, baby? Welcome back to the Eurosteppers podcast, guys. Today we got a special guest joining us, Mr. Wes Brown. He's a Canadian basketball scout, president of the Monday Morning Scouting Report. He's been doing basketball scouting for a long time. He's worked his way up. He's always in the gym. Wes, that's how I kind of met you, seen you around at games and stuff. But he's one of the hardest working scouts, if not the hardest working in Canada. He's worked with the Texas Legends before as well, and he's a college basketball expert. I think you were on TSN yesterday, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about his story, growing up as a Canadian basketball scout, and some March Madness. So just like to welcome you. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's always good to talk ball.
Yeah, super happy to have you on, and let's get right into it.
Yeah, so first question, your story. You have a really interesting story, coming up in kind of from where you started and kind of where you are now as a basketball scout, kind of with internships for NBA teams, kind of now going and creating your own brand. Do you want to kind of speak us through or walk us through what that's been like, your experience now and kind of how you've gotten to the point where you are today?
Yeah, I think it's a lot about perseverance, really. I think that's the word. I knew I wanted to be a scout since I was young, probably since I was in high school, if not before. It probably started with me just sending emails to Brian Colangelo and letters and stuff like that to the Raptors staff. And oddly enough, the assistant GM at the time, Jim Kelly, happens to be my best friend now. And he's a scout for Dallas now. But so I would send them emails and stuff. I would bother them nonstop. I ended up interviewing for an internship with the Raptors. It didn't work out. I started to realize that I kind of needed my own platform. That led me to starting a scouting website because I wanted to show teams that I had the same ability that they did. I knew how to gather information, how to talk about the medical records, how the important translatable skills, their physical traits, everything like that. So I showed them with that. That ended up relaying into an opportunity with the Texas Legends. The best story that I have from my life so far, I guess, would be that I had like a 2.5-hour dinner, right, with the whole Mavs front office. I'm sitting beside Donnie Nelson, and he's grilling me on every prospect in the draft for the whole dinner. Luckily, like that pizza and pasta didn't come. So I killed it. They gave me an opportunity. I kind of realized like I was in, I was working for the Legends remotely from here. As cool as it was to be courtside at every 905 game and stuff. And, for me to do the odd jobs here that they asked me to do, I realized I needed a niche, even though I thought my scouting ability was that. It's really hard to figure out how to make it in basketball. Like, unless you have a connection, it's almost impossible. So I realized I was sending out these weekly reports to teams, NBA teams, college teams, everything. And I realized that what they really wanted was the information on Canadian guys, not the information on college players that NBA teams could probably go watch themselves.
Yeah.
So I decided to start the Monday Morning Scouting Report pretty much as a way for me to be a pest every week. They could expect that Monday morning they would get an email from me. And guys liked my stuff. I built connections as a result of it. That's how we were talking off camera. The Bucks guys, John Horst, their GM, liked my report probably 1.5 years before they drafted Dante DiVincenzo, and I said he was the guy, and then they ended up drafting him. So then it turned into what it is today, which was just a result of just like putting my head down, like going to games, knowing what I'm looking for, refining my ability, and figuring it out, man. But I mean, it's easier for me, I think, than a lot of people because I really knew what avenue I wanted to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Dav, Dante DiVincenzo's your guy. I know
He is.
You're a big Dante fan. So
the big Ragu for sure,
cool.
bro. Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan. I didn't even know that. Like, that's incredible. And he was definitely such a pickup for us. He's looking like an incredible piece in this Buck squad. So that's crazy that I knew that well in advance. So props to you for that, for sure.
Yeah, well, they actually had like that year or the year before, they had Mikal Bridges, they had Jalen Brunson. And so I can remember writing the email still today. I said something like, I sat down to watch these other guys and I was blown away by DiVincenzo again. And DiVincenzo had something like a 6-point game, but he affected the game in so many ways. He like blocked a shot in transition late. He makes plays for others. He'll hit a key three. He just has great feel for the game, and he gives you all the intangible things kind of in every aspect.
For sure, yeah. You know, so many today I feel like the game is so focused, or like people just look at the box score and that's how they analyze players. But like you just said right there, there's so much more to the game that not even myself, I find myself being naive sometimes to like how many intangible assets a player may have and like how much he can impact the team beyond the stat sheet. So yeah, Dante's one of those players and he's a great pickup.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like I think this is where like even scouts overlook it. Like the game is about winning. So how are you going to help me win? You know, and it can be scary from a scouting perspective if I'm trying to project a player, if he's just a scorer or needs the ball. Like if I put you on for 5 minutes or 30, I have to know what you're giving me and what you're providing to winning. You know, if you need the ball in shots, well, then we're relying on the ball going in. That's total luck, right? No matter how good, the best players in the world only shoot 50-something%, right? So
that's true.
That's kind of the way I look at it, and that's why I like DiVincenzo so much, is because he didn't need the ball to succeed.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I like Villanova too, you know, like Jay Wright's culture there. Yeah, no, definitely a guy who's like a proven winner for sure.
Look, they won 2 rounds without their point guard. Like, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought for sure they were done. So like I had Winthrop over them first round, but yeah, now I guess Jay Wright's he's done a good job there. So yeah.
True.
They could out athlete them. Like Winthrop doesn't have the level of athletes that Villanova does. So I assume that's what happened. I missed the game, to be honest.
Well, speaking about March Madness, how we dive into a little bit further. Wes Brown, I got a question for you. Who is the team to beat right now in this competition?
I think we all know the team to beat. Gonzaga is one of the best teams, you know, you'll ever see in college basketball. They're not undefeated because they've had a weak record. They're undefeated because they're built like an NBA team. They have an unbelievable leader, like the best leader I've seen. And they have pieces, you know, from the point guard to the wing to the bigs. They put so much pressure on you. There's nowhere you can double or help off of. It's just, they're really hard to stop.
Yeah, me and Johnny are talking about it. Like, I feel like they have no flaws, this team. Like you were saying, they're built like an NBA team, very well structured, and yeah, they're definitely the team to beat.
Yeah, and also like, you know, like good coaching and Mark Few, like they have the star power in like Jalen Suggs, you know, experience like Corey Kispert. You know, I think Ju Tim, you know, he's a beast. You know, he has that like stash going right now too. But that guy, like he's a beast. But you know, I would kind of like to see Gonzaga make a transition like from the West Coast Conference, maybe like the Pac-12. Like I think that would be really interesting to see, hopefully. But yeah, no, so far they've looked great. You know, they're my pick to win. Obviously, I think Dav in our little pool. You too, Wes. I'm guessing you have them picked too.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do the brackets. I just do it for friends, and everyone that asked me to do it, I pick.
Gonzaga.
I don't think it's reasonable, honestly. Like if you pick Baylor, fine, but like we haven't seen any reason to think that there's a chink in their armor. Yeah, and they play with such great pace that at some point, like you've seen, at some point throughout the game, even if they start cold, they get it going, and they play with no fear, and they just let it go, you know, and they're hard to stop, man. They're hard to stop.
Yeah, and so right now, you know, they're looking at like completing a perfect season. I think the last team to almost do it was Kentucky in 2015, you know, with the Harrison twins. I think Devin Booker was on that team, Cade as well. They lost to Frank Kaminsky's Wisconsin team in the finals. And they're looking, I guess the last team to have a perfect season was Indiana in 1974. Do you think, like, do you think that they'll keep it going? Like, what kind of team do you think has the best chance of beating them right now?
Well, I think they'll do it. I think it's going to be interesting against Creighton. Like, they got a great point guard in Marcus Zagorowski who can maybe control the tempo a little. They're in the top 30 range in offense and defense. They got, you know, Christian Bishop down low, who's pretty good, who's good around the rim. He'll give them the easy buckets that they need.
Yeah.
And they got some wing scorers. Like, I think defensively they can cause a bit of an issue for Gonzaga, and controlling the pace will be a big thing. It's going to take someone hitting a lot of shots. I think the only team that, if they played 10 times that would beat them more than once would be Baylor probably. But it's going to take a hot shooting night, to be honest, and a poor shooting night from them, I think. Like, it's not going to be a night where they play well and they just get beat. I don't think that's possible, to be honest. So it'll be really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And, also like kind of Jalen Suggs, he's like their kind of leader. You said you can comment on his leadership. If you're like an NBA GM, you taking Cade Cunningham or Jalen Suggs, number 1 overall?
Not even close. Suggs.
Jalen Suggs?
Wow.
Not even close. Yeah.
Wow.
The like I was talking about before, the winning thing. The things I look for in prospects is the top 2 things probably are, one, how quickly you process the game, aka if you're attacking downhill, do you just bulldoze the help at the rim, or do you have pace, or can you make all the right reads, whatever it is. I think this, like you've seen his outlet passes, the second he sees it, not only is he capable of it mentally, but physically he's capable of getting the ball there. And the other thing is he's 100% about winning. That every decision he's making is about winning. And now you add that to his freakish level of athleticism that's far beyond Cade's. I don't even think it's close.
Wow.
I think Suggs is clearly by far and away, and not just that. Here, I'll go out on a limb here too. Like, Suggs is the best prospect I've scouted. Like, he's exactly what every team is looking for. I think Suggs is going to be a top 5 player in the NBA. He's unbelievable. Yeah, I think Cade's a good player. I mean, he turns it over a little too much. He struggles kind of without space. He's a little slow off the bounce for me. And in his pull-up game, I think off one of his hands, his shot is a little too long. I think off a right dribble, he struggles a little, whereas off a left, he kind of gets his rhythm. So I kind of see these flaws with him. His feel for the game is good, but it's not great. It's not that quick processing like Suggs has. And defensively, I think he's a little soft. If you watch him defend anyone physical, I remember one game that I was scouting, he gave up 5+ offensive rebounds that were just a result of him not boxing out and being physical. So, I mean, these are the little things you look for as a scout, right? That most people aren't, because I'm watching literally him and not anything else, right? But I think Suggs is far and away the best prospect.
Wow, yeah, that's for me. I haven't heard too many people say like far out and beyond that he's the most favorite. Some people obviously take him first, but like for me personally, I probably agree. I think that I was wondering to what extent, because like I'm still getting into college ball more and more. Like probably my first season, like really, really watching it like intensively. But I was wondering to what extent like your stock is affected when your team doesn't do well, and when you need them, like when you need to be that guy to do well. Like for example, what happened with Oklahoma State and Cade. Do you think that that's a big impact or no?
Well, look, Ben Simmons, I think, was like 12 and 19 at LSU. And
they didn't make the tournament.
Markelle Fultz at Washington. And I'm the same guy that at that same dinner with Dallas said I wouldn't draft Markelle Fultz because he just doesn't affect winning. And he could have all the stats and he had all the physical tools, but I don't think he cared. And it's true. He doesn't. I don't think he does care. And it didn't work out. So, and look, Ben Simmons is good because he's got unbelievable physical tools.
Yeah.
But I think I think the winning plays a part. I don't think we like Cade Cunningham losing in the second round. You put too much stock in it. But at the same time, you have to put stock in Jalen Suggs being undefeated. Mm-hmm. You have to, right? And if you look at how the Raptors have drafted, they got Van Vliet, who I think was on like a 30-1 team or something like that, or 30-3, something high, and Malachi Flynn, who I think they were 25-1 last year at San Diego State. So obviously, not just do they value guards who can get wherever they want on the floor and create their own shots and make other guys better off the bounce, but and defend, really play both ends, but they want winners, So I think that's where you look at it. That's another area where Suggs, it's like, this is this is hitting you right in the face. This is the best athlete. He's got the highest IQ, and he's all about winning, and he wins. I mean, he's got a few flaws, but not enough that can't be overcome.
Okay, yeah. So moving on from that, how about we talk about, because there were tons and tons of upsets, like probably one of the most in March Madness history. What was probably the biggest upset from your perspective from opening weekend?
I mean, I think most people would probably say Oral Roberts, but they really had talent. Like it's always interesting to see in March Madness how it goes from or how teams do when they have a ton of talent, and also the teams that are really well balanced. Like it's a mishmash, obviously, because it's basketball, right? But they have two legit players on Oral Roberts. I would really say the biggest upset was Abilene Christian over Texas. Like Texas to me was a Final Four team all year. They won the Maui Invitational early in the year. I love them. I love their prospects. They have great guard play. They got Andrew Jones, who's coming off a cancer battle, which is unbelievable, and he's pretty tough, obviously, to go through that. Courtney Ramey, who's got great pace, and Matt Coleman, who I really like, is a potential NBA backup type that defends really well and can shoot the three and is pretty athletic and create his own shot, kind of run offense. And Kai Jones, a unicorn type down low. Yeah. So they have tons of talent. They have multiple NBA draft guys, and they got caught. They're mature. Coleman's a senior. They're mature. I mean, I missed the second half. They got held to 53 points. Like that can't happen. That was the biggest one for me because I had them in my Final Four.
Yeah. No, I would say too, especially since I'm someone who always rides the teams who won, are playing well at the end of the year, won their conference tournaments. I thought Georgetown was going to make a run. Oregon State, they made a run. But yeah, I thought for sure Texas, especially playing in the Big 12, they're battle tested. I thought for sure they would do there's no way that team would get upset. I thought they could even give Alabama a run, and I guess if they were meeting the Sweet 16. Yeah.
That's March Madness, man. What can you say, Everyone picks teams. That's why, there's no point when people ask me to do their bracket. I'm just sure, but just so you know, me knowing more than you and the people in your bracket doesn't mean anything. My cousin picked whichever name was funnier, and he picked Oral Roberts. So
that worked out well.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the subject of Oral Roberts, they were the first or the second ever 15 seed to make it to the Sweet 16. Last 15 seed to do so was Florida Gulf Coast in 2015. How far do you think they'll go? They have a Sweet 16 matchup with Arkansas. I think in the Elite Eight they would be seeing Baylor. When do you think their road or their Cinderella story is going to end?
Yeah, well, with their type of game that they play, with Asmus's shot selection, I would say there's no way they're beating Baylor. I doubt they beat Arkansas. It's just so unlikely that they go on and, win this many games in a row. Mm-hmm. I think they're pretty good. I like O'Banner. They're big. He's a really what I like about him is he's a really reliable finisher. Finishes really well around the rim. He's a dog. He plays really hard. I think it'll take Asmus going off, but Arkansas has some pretty athletic guards. They're a really good defensive team. Mm-hmm. They play hard. They have a different level of length than what Oral Roberts is used to. And Arkansas has shown some toughness and really that they deserve that 3 seed, which I thought they were ranked a little high, to be honest, based on where they were and some other teams like LSU, for example, beats them and makes their tournament final. And Arkansas is ranked 5 seeds higher than them, which was a weird one to me. But they're proving right. So I think they'll lose to Arkansas, but it's March Madness, and Arkansas has guards that are really hit or miss, like guys like JD Note, who just, if they're on, they're on, and if they're not, they can shoot you out of a game. So it'll be really interesting to see that matchup.
Yeah, I know. I said just quickly, there's this funny stat about it. You're talking about knowing the brackets, you only know so much and it's March Madness, but it was something like 14 million brackets created, I think there was only something like 100 perfect brackets left after the Oral Roberts upset. So yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy. You just can't predict what's gonna happen, and like to think that small of a percentage is left over after that game is crazy. So yeah, there's just that.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's so many factors going into each game, and we can't possibly know it all. And
yeah,
it's just like, maybe one guy wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. I don't
exactly,
know. I mean, we're
exactly.
humans, there's
Yeah,
got to be room for human error.
Yeah, and
yeah,
just like all the
yeah,
combinations as well. Like if you get like just like the pick, like to get a perfect brackets, like probably will never ever happen. Maybe like you
it's a
never know,
lottery.
but
It's a
yeah,
lottery,
like
literally.
nuts.
Yeah, yeah, probably won't happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. And speaking of teams being down, because you talk about Texas a little bit. What happened to the Blue Bloods this year? Duke and Kentucky, just utter disappointments this year. Can you break down for us what fueled this?
Yeah, I don't think. I think Kentucky recruited bigger names, but I
Okay.
don't think either of them recruited like the superstar talent. Maybe there wasn't much superstar talent that was available to them.
Yeah,
But neither team really recruited the superstar talent that they needed. I think maybe Kentucky thought Brandon Boston was going to be that, but he's shown to really have no like discipline in his game or in his shot selection.
Mm-hmm.
Any separation he created was, he would let it go. And again, we're back to the winning thing, right? And now these teams are going to reassess. Oh, we're trying to get the youngest, like the best freshman
Yeah.
class we can, the best athletes, but it didn't work, right? And they had terrible seasons. So I think it's gonna change the way they're looking at moving forwards. But I would say great guard play. They're both missing. Davion Mintz is more of a 2 on Kentucky, and on Duke they really don't have a point guard, to be honest. And their best player Matthew Hurt is a big defensive liability. And Duke for a lot of the seasons didn't play Mark Williams, a 7-foot center who I think is a great prospect and has come on really strong late in the year. So I think a combination of maybe they're not being superstar talent there, or just not the winning talent. Plus the guard play, the Kentucky's guard play was pretty poor, and Duke, the number one thing, the same thing I think your Bucks are missing is a guy that makes other guys better. Every
Yeah.
team needs a guard that makes other guys better. You have to break them down, get in the lane, and force
Mhm.
the defenses to rotate, be a constant threat, putting pressure on the rim and on the defense.
Hmm.
And I don't think either of those teams have that.
yeah.
I know, just quickly about the Bucks. I actually totally agree with you. I think that losing Brogdon was a big hit for us, like big time.
Yeah.
But I think Drew Holiday, like what you're saying about making other plays better, I think he has that in him to be able to do that. Like I think he's shown that already, especially when Giannis has been sidelined. Like Drew has been stepping up a lot. Like he does make players better, and also like even PJ Tucker is one of those vet guys that makes players better. But I do agree, the guards are definitely lacking for the Bucks, so that's something we got to pick up for sure.
Yeah, I mean they're good. You just need a true point guard,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the look for that to happen.
yeah. Hopefully, we'll see.
Nah, yeah, you need a good point guard like Kyle Lowry. Like I
Yeah,
don't know, Drew
I would
Holiday can get
take
the
him. I
job
would take
done,
Kyle.
but
right. You do.
yeah. Yeah, jumping back to like the Kentucky too, just like from like I watched a couple of their games this year, and I think like look at like previous like in years, they have like star power and like firepower, like like De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, even Duke, like guys like Zion and RJ. Like there wasn't really any like kind of like generational type, or like maybe like I would say like Cade, maybe Jalen Suggs as well. Like those guys, like if they were there, but other than that, like looking at the 2020 class, like there wasn't really any like guys like those who are like just like completely dominant, like heads and shoulders above everyone else.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
and I think they miss. Like, to be honest, like I think the scouting in the U.S. misidentified these guys. Like they made Brandon Boston a top 10 guy. I think
yeah,
Suggs was like 18th or something like that. I don't know what he was, but he wasn't top of the top, and he's turned out to be that guy. So, I think they took the wrong guys, and they're going to change. I think they'll change moving forward, especially with the transfer market this year.
yeah. moving on. So Sweet 16 games start this Saturday. Looking ahead, what would you say is 3 games or even like 3 teams you're most excited to see play this weekend?
Yeah, I think a really interesting matchup should be Alabama UCLA. UCLA plays like a grinded out style. They really lack the talent that Alabama has.
Mm-hmm.
And Alabama was slowed down in game 1 by Pitino, I guess. And they've really found their range in game 2 and played fantastic. They blew them out, their usual style of basketball, which is getting up, shooting a lot of threes. So it should be really interesting because number one, Alabama's tempo is, I think, 12th in all of college basketball, and UCLA's is in the 300s.
Oh, wow.
So we know what's going to be happening. UCLA is going to try to have 30-second possessions, and Alabama's going to try to have 7 seconds or less on offense or whatever,
Yeah.
So that should be a really interesting matchup. I think there's a good amount of talent in that game, and it may come down to Alabama hitting shots or not. Another really good matchup I like is Florida State against Michigan, I would say. Both teams well coached, really good size, play a mature style. They're deep, good guard play. It's a really interesting matchup. I think those two. I think they both have everything. Florida State's had some like dud games where they don't show, and like they lost to Notre Dame randomly, and they were like, I don't know, 18-4 or something at that point. And Michigan's playing without Livers, who's really like their primary wing scoring type, even though he doesn't really play like that. Like they don't give him isolation opportunities. But he's probably their number one guy. But that should be particularly interesting. I think down low, you got Hunter Dickinson on Michigan and Basil Koprivica on Florida State. And Koprivica is a prospect I kind of like. The guys at Florida State scare me a little because they play 10 guys. It's like hockey shifts. But Koprivica has good shot blocking timing, really quick feet. He can switch out on the perimeter. He's good down low. He's got good hands and touch. He could shoot it a little. So that matchup's really intriguing. And I would say that the next best matchup for sure has got to be Gonzaga Creighton. Again, Creighton's good on both ends. They can control the pace potentially. And Creighton just is mature. And I think it's going to take a mature, disciplined type team on both ends. That's why they defend and play offense so well. I think it's going to take a mature type of team with a bit of a post presence and good guard play to beat Gonzaga. So you never know when it's going to come. And it's like, in March Madness, I wouldn't have thought Creighton had a shot, but based on the things that have happened, you kind of have to give it to them.
Yeah. No, I think Michigan, like especially Michigan, like kind of what Juwan Howard's been able to do. Like, he's like a finalist, could easily win Coach of the Year this year. And even like after John Beilein left, I thought kind of they were done. So like I didn't really see Juwan Howard really like just because he's like a former player. Like I didn't think he'd do like I thought like the program would fall off, but both years like they've been amazing, which has been really good. But
yeah, like one of my good buddies, who's another scout, went to one of their games and said that was the best coaching job he's ever seen by Juwan Howard. He said he empowers his guys. He lets them play freely. He doesn't really give it to them. You could tell they have good relationships. The X's and O's were good. He's got Phil Martelli there, who's experienced as a D1 head coach for a while. And everybody raves about him, to be honest. So he's done a great job.
Moving on a little bit, just want to talk a little bit about, like, there's a lot of Twitter buzz, especially after some of these upsets. People are talking about, like, the Big Ten. Everyone's always raving about how great it is, but they've been a very big disappointment this year. And on the contrary, Pac-12 have been so hot. So, like, is there kind of like a little power shift going on right now? What would be the cause for this? What do you think?
Well, I think the Big Ten was overrated all year. I don't think it was the best conference. I actually would have given it to the Big 12, but they're not doing so well either. but it's March Madness. You kind of got to take it with a grain of salt. It's one game.
Sure.
Ohio State's, at least I would say. Illinois got outcoached badly. So that was a loss flat out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think those teams are all good, but the level of athletes in the Big Ten doesn't really compare to the SEC and Big 12, and so I think they were good, but I think they were overrated, to be honest. And I think the Pac-12 was underrated. This is a great question, actually. I think the Pac-12 was underrated. The teams at the top of the Pac-12 were consistently good. Teams like UCLA and Oregon and Arizona, and USC, and you're seeing it now. Even though, again, it's March Madness, I don't think it's you put too much stock in it. But Oregon obviously has the mature guys to be able to win. And last game, Omari and Duarte were unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
The Oregon State is on fire. And who could have predicted that? That is a fluke. USC is a good team. They've got the Mobley brothers down low. They got great size and rim protection. I think they're something like 10th in giving up twos in all of college basketball. So UCLA's been tough all year. They don't have the prospects, but they're tough. They're really well coached. Mick Cronin gets on those guys, and I think it makes some sense what we're seeing. To be honest, that the Pac-12 is better than we thought, and the Big 12 is worse than we thought. Big 10 is worse than we thought.
Mm-hmm. With upsets and stuff, it's been a crazy year in 2021 in general, and I think this tournament really fits that. There were 16 upsets total from the first two rounds. That's the most ever. Talking about upsets, which team's early exit were you most disappointed about?
Yeah, I mean, other than Texas, Illinois probably. Illinois came in. You were saying earlier about riding teams that are hot. I think they've won 15 out of 16 or something.
Yeah,
they won the Big Ten tournament. They were on fire before that, and they beat all ranked teams. But there is an area that they're lacking, and they have Dosunmu, who's really showed that he was a bit of a two in terms of his ability to handle pressure and break it. Really, I think his ball handling and maybe even his hands aren't that great. And they have Curbelo, who's a little too aggressive. And they didn't really have that poised, calm guard to get them through, a tough situation where they were blitzing ball screens, and they maybe lacked some IQ. I would say they lacked some IQ in terms of off-ball stuff, being able to make things happen, and they came in really hot, but they fell short. And it's not like they lost a team that beat them fair and square, but you have to say they're disappointing, because they lost round 2 and they were on fire.
Yeah, especially losing to Cameron Krutwig as well, because I thought Kofi, got a 7-footer, 285 pounds.
Yeah,
losing a guy 6'6", 6'7", doesn't necessarily look the piece, but he definitely outplayed him, and he's an amazing player.
Yeah, skill, man, skill. He's got his counters.
Sure.
He's always going back over the right. He knows. And this is where, as a scout too, you got to look at the naturals versus the guys who are trying to force it. And
yeah,
and as much as you can try to teach Kofi basketball, he's missing a level of feel for the game that he just doesn't have naturally. That Krutwig does.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the last questions we've got. This one, like you said, it's madness. You never really know what's going to happen. But who are you riding with? Who is the Sweet 16 dark horse that you see making a deep run?
Yeah, I'm going to be wrong, but I would say Alabama. I thought they really they got their stuff together last game. They played confident. They moved the ball. They shot the lights out. Primo was fantastic, particularly. Obviously, everyone knows Canadian Josh Primo.
Yeah.
But moves really well without the ball on both ends. Saved the ball on the defensive end one time. Had a putback dunk, actually.
Yeah.
They've obviously coached him up to that he needs to help the team when he's not making shots or when he's not taking shots. And he did a really good job in that. And they have so many guys that they can do it with. that I think they're a real threat. And, it's going to come down to the moment. A lot of times guys get nervous, and a lot of times guys play freely. So we'll see. But to me, Alabama is the team that I don't think enough people are thinking of, that looked really good last game and that can catch fire, because they have the offensive ability. Whereas a team, let's say like Florida State, who could win it all, but they don't have the same level of free flowing offense and shooting that Alabama does.
Yeah, and I guess Alabama kind of reminds me of like the Houston Rockets, like back when James Harden was there, just because like small ball and like the amount of firepower they have on offense. Because like even if it's like a 3-4 possession game, say with like 5 minutes left, like with their like 3-point shooting ability, they can like turn it around, like they can like pretty much come back from any like deficit. Really, but yeah,
they're tough, man. They're tough. Anyone at this point, like Oregon can do it too, I think, because they're really mature and they got those two guys. I mean, last game, Omarui and Duarte were, again, unbelievable. Like Omarui is not afraid of Garza down low, and Duarte is an incredible 3-level scorer that also can make plays. You just never know, really, and when a team's got that much talent, it's possible. So it's going to be really interesting. I mean, again, Gonzaga the favorite, but
yeah.
I think it's pretty wide open other than that, to be honest.
Wes, the one last thing that we do with all of our guests is we have a little fun round of, I guess you can call it speed trivia. Even though, I mean, like, I wouldn't call it trivia. It's more like just questions that you have to answer quickly as fast as you can. So just let us know. We have like 4 or 5 questions lined up. So, yeah, here we go.
Okay.
All right, starting 3, 2, 1. Celeb crush. Who's your celeb crush? Celebrity crush?
I don't even remember what her name is. The blonde Australian girl from
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie. Yeah.
Why is that? That's everyone's. That is actually everyone's.
Okay, that was the first name
that
came.
Crazy. 2 coaches. Would you rather be coached by Doc Rivers or Nick Nurse?
Oh, Nick Nurse for sure. I think Nick Nurse is a way better X's and O's guy.
Sounds good. You're starting a franchise. You need a franchise player. Who are you going to? Luka or Giannis?
Luka, not even close.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow, that's an upset for me. Wow. What is your favorite app? If you had to use one app for the rest of for a year, you can only use one app. What would it be?
Is iMessage for sure?
That counts. That counts. Yeah.
Yeah, iMessage. I mean, my whole life is over.
True. True.
It's always about news and basketball.
Yeah.
Like whatever basketball is going on, that's my way of doing everything and letting my clients know when something happens. But other than that, Instagram. I love it.
Oh wow. I know you're a pretty big Twitter guy, so I was surprised with that one. But iMessage is important for sure.
I'm not actually. It just seems like I am.
Okay.
Okay. It's so funny. People think I'm like a social media guy. Like I'm not. I go to games and I post that I'm in a game, and people are like, oh, like Wes the social media. I'm just like, here's a video of Johnny taking a 3. Like it's just funny, but it's turned into something. So yeah. Trust me, when I get to the NBA, I'm not going to be a social media guy. I promise.
Fair. Yeah. And last one, favorite fast food place. It's a game. You're done a game. You've had a long scouting day. Where are you going to?
Does it have to be a chain?
Anything.
Nah,
anywhere.
Can be anywhere.
Yeah.
There's a place, Harry's Charbroiled, that I was just telling my mom about today. Harry's Charbroiled burgers and fries in Toronto. Delicious double cheeseburger. They get the fries all crispy.
Nice.
In a go-to in Corona.
Damn, we have to let people know about that one. Sounds good.
Harry's Charbroiled. There you go.
No, I've never heard. Where's it located?
I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
We'll link it. We'll link it down. We'll link it down.
Yeah, link it down below.
And then the $1 million question, like this one's like a little bit more of thinking about it. Okay. So would you rather go back to being 10 years old with all the knowledge you have now? I mean, all the scouting knowledge you have, that'd be pretty powerful. Or would you rather fast forward to being 40 years old with $50 million in your bank?
I'm happy where I am. I think I'll take the 50 million if you're going to offer me it.
Fair.
But I think the great thing, this is going to sound like a wise old man type answer, but the great thing about like life is going through all these things, and you learn so much, because I make fun of myself. I'm not the most intelligent guy, trust me, but you just keep getting punched and keep getting punched and keep getting up. Like the Rocky quote, it ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you get it. Keep moving forward. That's like my motto. No matter what happens, you figure it out, you know? So everything that happened between when I was a kid and now, you know, it would be great to have all that knowledge. You're right. But it's, you know, it's just fun going, man, it's just fun going through it, you know? And like, you know, Johnny's going through the recruiting, like, you know, maybe like the number one school you wanted, like, doesn't take you. You go somewhere else, you have a great year, you end up there, you know, the next year. That's or true. You end up meeting someone through it, then you find a job in basketball that's like your dream job, you know? So it's a lot of fun. There's my wise words.
Hey, we appreciate that. You know, I think a lot of like some people that we have, we try to cater this towards like, especially student athletes. That's kind of like the idea, especially these guest videos, because, you know, people are going through this right now. And I think that this wisdom from you, from other athletes is super crucial. So yeah, we're definitely happy to have you on here and you know, just give us a rundown, especially about college basketball. Even myself, I feel like I learned so much. Like this was some kind of masterclass for me. So yeah, it was really great having you on.
I'm glad, man. I'm glad. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, thanks for hopping on, Wes. Appreciate having you on. You know, hopefully when COVID ends, you know, be back in the gym and stuff. Yeah, seeing you around. But yeah, also guys, before we close, you know, we got the trade deadline coming up. Hopefully Kyle Lowry doesn't get traded, but you know, we'll find out. So next week we're gonna be breaking down the trade deadline. Little recap, and yeah, so that's it. Stay tuned to all our socials. We'll plug down Wes's page below, so be sure to check him out. You know, check out his TSN.
Definitely.
He's always on 590 The Fan and 1050. So check him out there. Twitter page. You know, guys, we have our question of the days, daily content on Twitter and IG. So check it out, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, guys. Peace.